Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. Today, Sandy and I are going to talk about our final leg through Alaska and Canada back into the Lower-48. It was just, it was a whirlwind summer. Absolutely awesome.
Very fast, too.
It did. Last time we talked to you guys, we'd just split off from our group and started our own trek with just the two of us and Alex. We did a show a little while ago with us and Alex on my 300th episode to kind of give a recap, but this is our standard monthly recap of our travels.
With just Dan and I.
Yep, and again, it was such an amazing trip for us to do that. So glad we took the time to travel and to be able to travel with a friend and have our one grandson with us was absolutely amazing. So once we crossed back into the Canadian border, we were only there for a couple nights to head to Haines, Alaska. But we spent a night in Haines Junction, just at a gas station there, so that we could make the trek from Haines Junction to Haines the next day. And Haines Junction is where we had talked about a couple months ago. We spent Canada Day, and just a really cool little town. Last time we were there, we got to see a show at the Village Bakery. So luckily,
a local band, I believe, is what they get in on a Friday and Saturday night, and you can do a dinner and music. So it's really neat. So if you ever in the area, I'd highly recommend it.
Yes, luckily we were there on a Friday night again, and there was a kind of local band from up in Whitehorse playing, the band She. And Sandy signed up for the dinner menu.
Salmon. It was unbelievable with the amount of food you got. It was like 2-3 meals really in one.
Yeah, it was really good. I'm not a seafood eater, but the sides looked amazing.
Yes, they are. They were.
But yes, that was cool. And then we just stayed in the gas station that night and got up the next morning and started our trek down to Haines, Alaska. Beautiful drive from Haines Junction to Haines. Just absolutely stunning, and a really good road, comparatively speaking, from most of the roads on the Alcan and
up north
through Alaska for sure. So that road is in really good shape. So we crossed the border back into Alaska, got our chicken and clementines confiscated by U.S. Customs, which is pretty cool, kind of funny, but nonetheless,
weird. It was
weird.
What it is. Because we bought them in the U.S. in Alaska, but they took them from us.
So we got into Haines, and as we normally do, we get to a visitor center to try to check out some stuff, and that's where we met Alex, because we usually would travel separately because he can move at a little bit better speed than we do, so we generally leave a little bit earlier than him, and he'll usually catch us shortly after we get to our destination, if not pass us along the way. So we're at the visitor center in Haines and talking to a really, really kind gentleman there, and another woman asked him about the Northern Lights, and he told her a spot to go to, just up the road that was a great spot where you have a great vantage point to the north.
And the time to go too. That was great.
Yeah, best times to go and all that sort of stuff.
Like 3 in the morning.
That night we set our alarms for like 1:15 or something, and got loaded up and into Alex's Jeep, all of us and Cooper, by 2 o'clock, and made the trek down to this point.
And it really wasn't that far. It
might
have been like
15
minutes, if that.
Yeah, it might have been 4 or 5 miles tops. So we got to the point where he had told us about, and we were just hanging out for a little bit, and about 45 minutes into our wait, Alex and I were both outside of the Jeep. I was setting my tripod up because I did some research about how to get good pictures of the Northern Lights and that sort of stuff.
Because it keeps you steady when you're holding your phone.
Yeah, because you got to be in night mode or professional mode, so there's some extra vibration if you're not doing that on a tripod. So setting up, and then just all of a sudden, Alex was actually on the roof of the Jeep, and the sky just opened up, and Sandy was still inside at that point, and Alex was like, "Grandma, get out of the Jeep! It's happening!" And
it was really, I don't know. I guess I didn't know what to expect, but it was like just lines shooting across the sky, and then eventually the color would come through.
Yeah, it was super cool.
It was almost like you were in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it was, for me, by far the highlight of our trip. It
was.
Going up there, the time we went up, there was a point where I thought, well, we're just not going to see the Northern Lights, because when we first got up there, we didn't even have any darkness at all. It was just dusk and then daylight again.
Yeah, and it was too early in the year.
But with us getting down to Haines in mid-October, I think it got dark about 8:30 at that point.
Yes.
So you did have enough darkness to see them. So it was super, super cool to be able to experience that. And when we got back, we were just kind of all, adrenaline was flowing high, and I don't think we actually went back to sleep till probably 6 o'clock in the morning at that point.
When we were watching and the sky was dark, when all that was happening, we heard a pod of whales in the water nearby, and they were blowing through their blowhorn. So yeah, that was cool. That just added, even though we couldn't get pictures because it was nighttime, but
it was cool.
It was still something.
And the whole Northern Lights display, so to speak, lasted about 45 minutes. So that was again really, really cool. Alex and I did a little hike up in Haines, and the next day, and then we made our way. We were taking the ferry, because the only way to get from Haines to Skagway is either by ferry or to go back up to Haines Junction, up to Whitehorse, and back down to Skagway.
And that would take more gas, so it was cheaper to do the ferry.
Yeah, it's actually cheaper to do the ferry than the amount of gas you're going to spend to kind of do that loop. So we took the ferry from Haines to Skagway, which again was a really super cool experience in and of itself. But it was only about 40 minutes.
Right.
40-minute boat ride. But to get the RV on the ferry, not our first time on a ferry, but our first time on a ferry this big, much larger than the ferry we take in Galveston from Boulevard to Galveston a couple times. But it was cool. And then Skagway was just a tiny little tourist town.
Very touristy.
For the cruise boats. They usually get the full day that we were there. The one lady in the fudge shop there, who I'm hoping to get on the show, had told us that there were 12,000 people getting dumped on the streets there by the boats. I think there were 4 cruise ships the day we were there. I was going to
say at least 4 to 5 maybe.
Yeah. And then the day we were leaving was pretty cool because, again, such a small world that we live in. Other friends of ours that we met on a volunteer project in Wisconsin, our first year to volunteer project that we'd ever done. Craig and Lynn Springer from North Carolina happened to be on a cruise, and their port of call that day was Skagway, so we got to get together with them and just have a chat in the middle of the street for 20, 30 minutes, something like that, and then we made our way up the road. But again, it's so amazing. It was cool to travel with our friends, but the friends we met, and reconnected with that we had no idea with just blew me away on this trip, being as far away as what we were. I mean, it's one thing when we bump into friends and, when we were back in Pennsylvania a couple times, some friends were coming through, we got together with them, or, other places in the Lower-48, but to, run into Vince and Amy in Banff, and then Judy and Shannon and Homer and Alvin and Becky and Toke, and then Lynn and Craig in Skagway was just pretty wild. So so after we got together with them, we just hit the road, started heading north. We were headed to Carcross for the evening, and again, another beautiful drive from Skagway up to Carcross. And just on a cuff, we ended up stopping at the Yukon Suspension Bridge,
Oh,
which
that is awesome too. That's
really,
another place.
really
You
cool.
have to stop to see it.
And wasn't even on our radar.
And
We were just kind of driving. I actually, drove past the entrance and ended up, kind of
you turning
into the
back.
exit and doing a U-turn and getting faced the right way. But
I struggled.
super
That
cool.
was a struggle day for me, but I made it through because I was still suffering. I even to this day now I'm still suffering from back and leg nerve and whatever
Yeah, but
muscle damage.
super cool spot that we.
Yeah, I'm glad we stopped. Like I said, I struggled, but I was determined to go across that suspension bridge, and it was just beautiful.
Yeah, really neat.
It was.
And then we ended up meeting Alex at the Carcross Desert, which is the world's smallest desert.
With sand dunes.
Sand dunes. Again, just really cool, and just one of those spots that are just mind blowing how they develop.
And it's almost like the sand dunes in Colorado, but
much
smaller scale.
But yeah, just super wild to be in the middle of a mountainous region, a mountain range, and then all of a sudden here's a desert. So that was pretty cool. So we just stayed in Carcross for the evening. Then from that point, it was a lot of driving for the next couple days to get to Vancouver. So we had some pretty early mornings that we left and some pretty long drives. So then we, from the Alcan, we got on the Cassier, which is BC 37. Got another beautiful drive, but it was a lot of driving for us. Just stayed along the side of the roads and
boondocked
and got into to Vancouver, and we were in Vancouver for 2 nights at the Capilano RV Park, which is really cool, right along the Capilano River. And again, with Sandy's back hurting, Alex and Cooper and I did a little urban hike, so to speak, where we walked across the Lionsgate Bridge into the park there in Vancouver, to the lighthouse, and it was super cool. I think all total it was about a 7-mile hike / walk across the bridge and through the park. Kind of rained a little bit on and off, but being that it was Vancouver, it did not seem to matter to anyone because there were still quite a few people in the park, and rain is one of the things that they're most definitely used to. So then Vancouver, we ended up crossing back into the U.S. To head to just
in Washington,
outside of Seattle. We're headed to Olympic National Park, so we crossed back into the U.S. on August 27th, and we just stayed at the Harvest Host that first evening outside of Tacoma, which is a little brewery, and cool little spot. So then we got together with our one cousin and her husband, Deborah Morash and Bob. So then we spent the next couple days touring Olympic National Park, which is really, really cool. It was one of those things where we were just way too close to not do it. So we wanted to make sure that we checked it out, and it's so huge, such a massive park. I mean, from
they have rainforest there.
Yeah, so we were all the way down to the rainforest area along the coast. Alex did some tide pulling and stuff.
You did a hike with him. Well, once you had the ranger took you on a little hike and information.
Yeah, but again, just such a cool spot. I mean, you're from the coast, inland, mountain ranges, just really, really cool spot for sure. We ended up scoring a campground that we weren't planning on staying at right in the park. More campground. It was a mile from the beach because there was no way we were getting the rig to the beach. So it was that was cool. And then after we left the park, we just stayed in the rest area. We had service done on the RV the Tuesday after Labor Day, and ended up getting out much sooner than I anticipated, because our next stop was to go into Mount Rainier, and we were staying at the Harvest Host that night. So and it was probably about noon or so when we got to the Harvest Host, and Alex just parked his car there and hopped in the RV. And again, I'm glad we had that extra half day, because we got to see quite a bit of Mount Rainier.
I think we got to see the peak of it too,
yeah.
which is a rare thing too there.
Yeah, it's kind of like Denali, where not a whole lot of people actually see the peak, just because of the, how it's always overcast and stuff. So we had a couple great days in Mount Rainier. Did stay in the one campground there as well the one night, and then we were our last day in Rainier is where we split off from Alex. He was taking Interstate 90 back to Pennsylvania. We were taking a much slower route because of book signings and stuff like that. So we were on our way to Richland, Washington. He was on his way to Spokane and beyond. So when we got into Richland, one of my old players, Greg Hughes, lives there, which turned out to be awesome, because we were able to replenish book inventory, had a whole bunch of stuff shipped to him, and luckily he's got a massive garage.
He's got a good size garage.
Our half dozen or so boxes of inventory did not hinder his operation at home at all with the amount of space he has. So I had a great book signing in Richland, Washington. Did really, really well. We ended up staying at a campground there that was right next to the minor league ballpark for Tri-Cities, and one of Greg's friends had season tickets, so we ended up having, going to the game Saturday night right behind home plate, and just... It
was great, because then our campsite was right next door, and it was a beautiful county campsite.
Yeah, a little county park there.
Really great.
But again, just to be able to catch the last homestand of the season for Tri-Cities was pretty cool. And just being able to spend time with Craig and his family was a blast. We went to dinner Friday night, went to the baseball game Saturday, and then I did my last book signing Sunday, and they went up to see the Seahawks play for opening day. And then we made our way to Boise, technically Garden City, to see my cousin Jim and his wife Patty, and had another book signing there on Tuesday and Wednesday. And again, always great to spend time with family and just catch up and, talk about our adventures and their adventures. My cousin Jim has taken several cross-country trips on his motorcycle, which is always neat. Patty's gearing up for a little trip with her sister down into California. So just kind of comparing notes is always fun, and just spending time. And then it was funny, during my book signing there, I guess my second cousin, Whitney, Jim and Patty's daughter, popped in to see me, which was awesome. And then John and Karen Gailey, friends that were on our trip with us through Alaska, happened to be on their way back to Utah in the area, and decided to pop in and surprise me at my book signing there, which was just super, super cool, for sure. And after Boise, we were making our way to Cheyenne for another book signing, Cheyenne, Wyoming. But on our way, we wanted to stop at Shoshone Falls. We were there back in 2021, and the falls were literally dry.
There were no falls, basically.
Yeah, and Shoshone is basically, they call it the Niagara Falls of the West, but when we were there in 2021, it was just a lot of rocks.
It was. And it was just beautiful.
We just didn't know, we never saw it with water flowing, but we certainly got to see the water flowing this time around. And as we were coming into Twin Falls the night before, it was actually on September 11th.
And it was dark out. I don't know what time of the night it was, but it was definitely...
We left after my book signing, so it was probably 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and we were coming across and saw a spotlight going across the Snake River Canyon, and it was just illuminating this huge American flag. So we stopped in at the Twin Falls Visitor Center that night just to check out the flag, and didn't really know what all was going on with it. But the next day, after we went to the falls, we went back to the Visitor Center to see the flag during the day.
And they had.
And it was cool, and they still had
said,
some stuff there.
yeah.
They had a
ceremony.
9/11 tribute
yes.
ceremony on 9/11. So we got to talk to one of the organizers, which is pretty neat. And again, just to to see the flag, how big it was, and just knowing my mom's connection with 9/11, it was a very special moment for me to kind of be able to be there, and had quotes lined up around
It's really cool. Really
the viewing
cool.
area, which was neat.
And I guess, do they do this every year, I believe?
Yeah, they just started doing it.
But to see the American flag somehow strung through the gorge, the canyon, and it was just flying with the wind.
So it was a windy day, so the flag
and I guess at least the stripe was 6 foot. Each
each
stripe
was 6 foot high,
wide.
which is pretty wild. So that was, again, an unexpected experience. We didn't know that we were going to see it when we got there, and it was so cool that we did. And then from there, we made our way to Cheyenne, Wyoming, for my next book signing, and again had a good signing in Cheyenne. Beautiful drive, coming across 80 into Cheyenne, and just it was awesome. So. Yeah, it was a great little trek getting back into the Lower-48, and just loved that trip in there, and being able to mix in some book signings and meeting with friends and family was just absolutely awesome. So for everybody out there listening, be sure to check out my other podcasts and blogs at journeymymotherson.com, and we're back with our final leg of this trip here in a little bit.